My name is Ava Monroe, and I've never been the loudest voice in the room. I prefer the background, the comfort of the unnoticed. I'm a graphic designer at a boutique creative agency in Portland. The kind of place with exposed brick walls, coffee always brewing, and an unspoken rule that sarcasm was a sign of intelligence. I liked it here, or at least I used to. They say workplaces are like families. If that's true, then mine was the kind where the hugs are fake and the knives are real. At first glance, nothing seemed wrong. That Monday started like any other. Rain tapping gently on the windows, my desk littered with design drafts, and Mark, my team lead, cracking a joke about deadlines like he always did. I'd just finished a brochure design for one of our bigger clients. Spent the whole weekend on it. My fingers were sore, my eyes strained. But it was good, damn good. I knew it. So, when I emailed it to Mark and didn't hear back for hours, my stomach knotted a little. Still, I brushed it off. He was probably just busy. At lunchtime, I headed to the break room to warm up my leftover pasta. The usual suspects were already gathered. Haley, the social media manager with a resting smirk, Jared, the videographer who flirted with anything that moved, and Leah, my co-designer, who had mastered the art of weaponized politeness. They were talking, quiet at first, but as I stepped in, the room shifted. A stutter in the laughter. A pause. A shared glance. "Hey, Ava," Haley said quickly, too brightly. "Your hair looks nice today." That was odd. She never complimented me before. I nodded. "Thanks." I stirred my pasta, the hum of the microwave filling the silence. I could feel their eyes on me. Then, just as quickly as it came, the moment passed. They returned to their conversation, now about some TikTok trend, but something about the tone felt off. Like I'd just walked in on a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. I returned to my desk and found Mark had finally replied. "Looks okay. Needs work." That was it. No feedback, no notes. Just that. I stared at the screen, heart sinking. He always gave more than that. Was I overthinking it? That night, as I lay in bed, the silence of my apartment stretched long. I replayed that moment in the break room over and over. The sudden quiet, the fake smile, the empty compliment. The way Haley's eyes darted to Leah like they were sharing a joke I didn't get. "It's just in your head," I told myself. "You're being paranoid." The next day, nothing was outright wrong, but nothing was quite right either. My emails were answered more slowly. People smiled a little less when I walked by. Jared passed by my desk and whispered something to Leah that made her laugh, until she saw me looking. Then she looked away. That night, as I was packing up, I heard it. Just a faint echo of my name. I stopped by the coat rack near the glass conference room. The lights inside were dim, but I could hear voices. "Haley." "Jared." "Leah." "It's like she doesn't even know," Haley whispered. "She's so clueless," Jared replied, chuckling. "I almost feel bad," Leah added. "Almost." They laughed quietly. I stood frozen. Every muscle in my body wanted to burst in and demand an explanation. But I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Instead, I slipped out quietly and walked to my car. Rain dripped off the roof of the parking garage. My hands were shaking as I turned the key in the ignition. I didn't know what they were talking about. But I knew they were talking about me. I told myself it could be anything. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it wasn't even about me. But deep down, I knew better. Something had shifted. Something small, something poisonous. And I wasn't imagining it. The next morning, the office felt colder, even though the thermostat read 72. I sat at my desk, trying to focus on a new campaign for a sustainable clothing brand, but my mind refused to cooperate. Every movement, every glance from across the room was filtered through suspicion. They were talking about me. I was sure of it now. I looked up just in time to see Haley whisper something to Jared. He tilted his head slightly, caught my eye, and looked away too fast. That was the third time this morning. I opened Slack to message Leah, hoping maybe she'd act like nothing was wrong. Maybe I could pretend everything was fine if someone else did first. "Ava. Hey, do you want to go over the new mood board together?" The typing indicator blinked. then stopped, then blinked again. Leah. Actually, I'm really slammed today. Maybe later? Cold. Distant. Not like her. Leah and I used to bounce design ideas off each other all the time. She was never too busy for that. I stared at the screen, heart thumping. Maybe they found something. Maybe they misread something. I started mentally scanning every interaction, every conversation over the past few weeks. Had I said something wrong? Or maybe they were just jealous. That campaign I designed last month got high praise from a big client. Mark even mentioned me in the team meeting. But still, would that cause them to what? Turn on me? It sounded crazy. But it didn't feel crazy. The day dragged on. At lunch, I pretended to scroll through my phone at my desk, too nervous to enter the break room. Instead, I kept an ear out. I heard faint giggles. A door creaked. Then footsteps. Voices moved closer. I instinctively minimized my screen. She's so weird now. Haley's voice floated just outside my cubicle. I know, right? Always looking around like we're gonna jump her or something, Jared replied. She's just insecure, Leah added. My pulse thudded in my ears. They weren't even trying to be subtle anymore. I stood up quickly, loud enough to be heard. Their voices cut off. Oh, hey, Ava, Haley said, too sweetly. We were just talking about the pitch schedule. Cool, I said, forcing a smile. I'll email you my updates. She nodded, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. When they walked away, I sat back down, adrenaline humming through me. I felt like I was drowning in a room full of air. By the end of the day, I couldn't take it anymore. I cornered Mark just before he left. Hey, do you have a sec? I asked, pretending to sound casual. He looked up from his desk, clearly tired. Yeah, what's up? I hesitated. Have you heard anything weird? About me? His brow furrowed. What do you mean? I've been getting weird vibes from some of the team. I feel like there's something going on, and I'm not being told. Mark leaned back in his chair. Ava, everyone's under a lot of pressure right now. Deadlines, client meetings, all that. Don't take it personally. That was it? No follow-up? No concern? But I started. Look, he interrupted, softening his tone. You're doing good work. Don't let the noise get to you. The noise. That's what he called it. I nodded and left, my stomach turning. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I sat on my couch, laptop open, scrolling through everyone's LinkedIn, Instagram, anything that could give me a clue. Then I made a burner account. I followed Haley. Her stories were public. Most were her usual latte pics, yoga shots, inspirational quotes that didn't match her energy in real life. But one post from 2 days ago made my blood run cold. It was a photo of the office's shared whiteboard wall. Someone had drawn a cartoon caricature of a woman with frizzy hair, big glasses, and a sad face. The caption read, "She doesn't even know. Skull, 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 hashtag clueless, hashtag bless your heart." And the comments? Laughing emojis. Inside jokes. Leah had commented, "Stop loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face." I clicked through another tagged post from Jared. A meme. About that coworker who thinks they're killing it but is just there. It had no names. But the timing, the tone, the drawing, it was me. I knew it. I sat back, staring at the screen, heart cracking wide open. They weren't just gossiping. They were mocking me. Publicly. Behind my back. Using my name without using my name. It wasn't in my head. They'd made me the joke. I closed the laptop slowly, my fingers ice cold. Something deep inside me shifted. Not pain. Not shame. Something sharper. They wanted something to talk about? I'd give them something they'd never forget. The next morning, I woke up early. Earlier than I had in months. My body felt stiff, but my mind was alive. Wired. Focused in a way I hadn't felt since college, when I'd once pulled 3 all-nighters to design my senior thesis campaign. But this wasn't school. This was war. I wasn't going to cry in the bathroom. I wasn't going to sulk at my desk. I was going to make them see me for real. I wore black. Not the safe kind of black. No. This was a tailored blazer, sharp high-waisted trousers, a crimson lip, and my curls pinned into a bold updo. I looked expensive, confident, like I owned every square foot of the office floor. As I walked into the building, heads turned. Jared paused mid-conversation. Leah blinked too many times. Even Haley's good morning had a confused edge to it. I didn't answer. I just smiled. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and launched the presentation I'd been building since midnight. But I didn't email it.
Not yet.
I had something better. By 11 a.m., Mark announced a surprise all-hands meeting. I wasn't surprised. I had asked him that morning to take a look at my newest pitch deck, and I knew exactly how he'd react once he saw it. When we all filed into the glass-walled conference room, I could feel the tension. Eyes on me. Haley chewed her lip. Jared kept checking his phone. Leah tapped her pen on her knee. Mark stood at the front, holding a remote. This morning, Ava shared a concept that I think deserves everyone's attention. Let's take a look. He clicked the first slide. Silence. A powerful campaign title filled the screen. You talk about me. Let's talk about you. The first slide transitioned into a looping video of workplace gossip statistics, data-driven facts about how toxic culture spreads, how productivity drops, how gossip destroys teams. Then came examples. Not directly incriminating, but close enough. A hand-drawn cartoon of a sad office worker. A screenshot of a generic meme with a blurred caption. The final slide simply read, "If your brand was built in this office, would you hire your own team?" Mark turned to me slowly. You made this last night? I nodded. It's bold, he said. Really bold. Haley scoffed under her breath. It's a bit much, don't you think? I turned to her, calm and razor-sharp. Only if you recognize yourself in it. Her mouth opened, then shut. Jared let out a laugh, but it was nervous. It's just we joke around. That's what work culture is, right? I tilted my head. Does joking usually involve public mockery? Anonymous posts? Characters drawn to look like someone you know? The room went ice cold. Leah fidgeted. Nobody meant harm. We didn't even name anyone. That's the beauty of cowardice, I said. It never uses names. Mark interrupted, trying to bring control back. All right, everyone. I think the point is clear. This, whatever this is, needs to stop. Immediately. I locked eyes with each of them. I could feel the energy shifting. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. I had made the intangible tangible. That afternoon, something strange happened. Jared sent me a Slack message. Jared, hey, do you want to grab lunch? My treat. I stared at it for a long moment. Ava, no thanks. I brought truth for lunch today. I closed Slack and smiled. But just when I thought the tide was turning, I made a discovery that rocked me even harder. That night, I received an anonymous email from a burner account. No subject. No body. Just one attachment. A screen recording. It showed Haley's desktop, recorded by someone secretly. She was in the middle of a Zoom call with Leah and Jared. Their faces were in little rectangles on the screen. It was from a few days ago. Haley clicked on a shared Google Doc titled, Ava Watch Clown Face. My blood froze. Inside the document were daily logs.
Times.
Observations. Comments. Wore the same shoes again. Talked too much during the client call. Why does she always look tired? She thinks Mark likes her work? LOL. They weren't just gossiping behind my back.
They were documenting me.
It was a coordinated effort. An active smear campaign. That's when I realized something bigger. This wasn't just petty office drama. This was calculated. Someone was leading it, driving it, feeding it, and something told me it wasn't just about me. I stared at the screen recording for what felt like an hour. Rewinding, rewatching, rewinding again. Every detail hit harder than the last. Jared's smug laughter, Leah's snarky comments, and Haley's so effortlessly cruel. But what cut the deepest wasn't what they said. It was the ease with which they said it. Like it was routine. I didn't cry. Not this time. No, this time I got angry. Not the reckless kind of anger. The kind that simmers, quiet, controlled, and precise. I spent the rest of the night planning. The next morning, I walked into the office like I was carrying a storm behind my eyes. I made sure to dress the part: crisp white blazer, silver heels, and a confidence that made silence follow me like a shadow. Mark had called a follow-up meeting to review campaign revisions.
Perfect.
I waited until the end of the session. Everyone was ready to leave when I stood and said, "There's something I need to address." Heads turned. Mark blinked. "Is it urgent?" "It's overdue." I plugged in my laptop and opened the screen recording. The room fell into a stunned hush. "Play it," I said aloud. Mark gave me a questioning look, but I nodded. The video began. Haley's voice filled the air. Leah giggled. Jared rolled his eyes. No one spoke. By the time the Google Doc was on screen, Haley's face had turned ghost white. I turned to the room. "So, this has been going on for how long? Weeks? Months?" No one answered. "Funny thing is," I continued, my voice steady but sharp, "you didn't just make jokes. You made a file. Like you were building a case. What were you planning to do with it? Send it to HR? Leak it? Use it to sabotage me during review season?" "Ava," Haley said quickly, "this is being blown way out of proportion. It was just dumb venting. Stress relief." "Stress relief," I repeated, taking a step forward. "You needed stress relief, so you decided to document my every move like I was a criminal under surveillance?" Leah shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "We didn't mean for it to get that serious." "You didn't mean for it to get serious?" I snapped. "Tell me, which part wasn't serious? The mocking? The file name? The emojis next to my name?" Jared finally spoke up. Okay, we were wrong. You've made your point. Let's all just move on." "No," I said, crossing my arms. "Not this time. You don't get to write me off as oversensitive. You don't get to joke your way out. You did this." Then I turned to Mark. "And you, did you know?" His mouth opened and closed, unsure. I had no idea." "Would you have believed me if I'd told you without proof?" He hesitated. "I don't know."
Exactly.
There was a long silence. Then Haley's voice, low, bitter, cut through the room. "You think this makes you the hero? You're just dramatic. You always have been. We were just tired of pretending you were someone you're not." I raised an eyebrow. "And who exactly do you think I am?" She stood, hands clenched. "You want everyone to feel sorry for you. That's what this whole thing is. You're not a victim. You're manipulative. You made that whole campaign just to make us look bad." I smiled.
Cold.
Controlled.
No.
"I made it because I am good. And that scares you." She scoffed, but I kept going. "You hate that I never needed to put anyone down to shine. You hate that people like my work. You hate that I don't kiss up or water myself down. You're twisting everything," Leah said quietly. "No," I said, voice growing louder. "You did that all on your own." The room was still. Mark stood finally. "I'll be escalating this to HR immediately." Haley let out a bitter laugh. "Of course you will. Now that she embarrassed us in front of everyone." "You embarrassed yourself," I shot back. Jared stood, grabbed his laptop, and stormed out without a word. Leah followed quickly. Haley looked at me one last time, eyes full of something I couldn't quite define. Rage? Jealousy? Or the sting of being exposed? Then she left too.
Just me and Mark.
He sat down slowly. "I'm sorry, Ava. I truly didn't know." "I believe you," I said softly. "But I need this to matter. Not just to me. For every person who's ever sat at their desk while the people around them whispered and snickered and never got caught." He nodded. "It will." I left the conference room.
I wasn't shaking this time.
But as I reached my desk, my phone buzzed. Another email. Another burner address. Subject: "You think they were the only ones?" My stomach dropped. I opened the message. It was a photo.
A photo of me.
Sitting alone in the break room.
Back turned.
The timestamp was from 2 weeks ago. I hadn't seen a camera. Hadn't heard anyone. Below the image, one line. "You gave them something to talk about. Let's see what we give you." A chill crawled down my spine. Someone else was watching. Someone not in that room. I stared at the screen, that single photo burning into my mind like a branded warning. The sender hadn't signed the email. No clue. No context. Just the photo and that terrifying line. You gave them something to talk about. Let's see what we give you.
We.
That one word did more damage than everything Haley had said combined. Because it meant this wasn't over. It meant there was more. I rushed to IT, adrenaline coursing through my body like ice. Can you trace this email? I asked the tech on duty, showing him the screen. It's anonymous, but it's someone in the building. I need to know who sent it. He looked at me, brows furrowing. Let me take a look. I waited in tense silence as he ran the headers through the system. Finally, he shook his head. It's from a spoofed address, bounced through multiple foreign servers. Could be anyone. Could even be someone outside the company. But how would they get that photo? I whispered, more to myself. The tech frowned. Unless someone here gave it to them. I walked away in a daze. The walls of the office suddenly felt too tight. The lights too bright. Everyone I passed. I second-guessed. That intern who always looked away when I passed, was it her? The guy in legal who never smiled, him? The new girl from HR who asked too many personal questions? I no longer knew who to trust. Still, I did what I always did. I worked. I delivered. And I waited. But something had shifted. Whispers followed me again. Not loud. Not like before.
Subtle. Calculated. People looked at me differently now.
Not with mockery, but with fear. A few days later, I was called into the HR director's office. A woman named Meredith, who spoke with perfectly chosen corporate tones. We've concluded the internal review of the incident, she said with a rehearsed calm. Jared and Leah have submitted their resignations. Haley was terminated. I nodded slowly. And the email? I asked. Meredith's smile barely cracked. We have no definitive proof it came from inside the organization. But rest assured, we are strengthening all internal privacy protocols. She slid a company-branded tote bag across the table. We also want to offer you this as a gesture of support. A wellness care package. I blinked. Inside the bag, a journal, a candle, herbal tea, and a coupon for therapy. Therapy. They gave me a coupon for therapy. I left without saying a word.
But I didn't stop searching.
I combed through security footage, checked metadata on internal files, monitored my inbox obsessively. Whoever sent that photo was still out there. And then came the second email. No text. Just a video file. I paused. My finger hovered over the trackpad. And then I clicked. The footage began with grainy office security cam footage, someone sneaking into the marketing conference room late at night. Hoodie up. Face obscured. But the timestamp didn't lie. It was 3 days before the recording of Haley's conversation was leaked. And this person? They plugged in a USB drive and downloaded the file onto their laptop. Someone knew about the file long before I ever found it. Someone had been watching them. Watching me. I zoomed in. Froze the frame. It was blurry, but I recognized the lanyard. It was navy blue. Custom stitching. Only 3 people in the office had them. One of them was Mark. My blood ran cold. I went to him that afternoon.
Calm. Direct.
I need to talk to you. Privately. He welcomed me into his office with a warm smile. Of course. What's on your mind? I dropped a printout of the video still on his desk. His face went rigid. Where did you get this? He asked. Does it matter? I replied. Why were you in that room? He hesitated. Too long. Too obvious. I wanted to verify what was going on, he said. I had heard whispers. About the file. About how they were talking about you, behind your back. I didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. You could have told me. He looked away. I didn't know who to trust.
Not even you.
Not then. And the photo. I pushed. The one from the break room. That wasn't them, Mark. That came after. That came from someone else. Silence. You're not telling me everything, I said, eyes narrowing. There's more to this. He finally looked at me. Something dark behind his eyes. There are things you don't understand, Ava. Things that go beyond office gossip. Let it go. I leaned forward.
No.
I stood up and walked out. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, but clarity. I realized something. This had never been about popularity, or jealousy, or even racism. This was about control. The file, the emails, the silence. Someone had been manipulating the narrative from the shadows. Haley, Leah, and Jared were just pawns. There was a deeper rot in the foundation of the company. A few weeks later, I submitted my resignation. But not before submitting everything to a journalist I trusted. Every email, every screenshot, every clip. The story broke like wildfire. Corporate espionage, bullying, and a secret file. Whistleblower exposes marketing giant. Stock dropped. Investigations launched. Mark? He stepped down, citing personal reasons. But I knew the truth. He thought he was playing chess. He didn't realize I had learned the game. They thought I would crumble. They thought I would break. But what they didn't understand is that some people are built in the fire, and when you're forged that way, betrayal doesn't destroy you. It reveals who you've always been. Walking away from that company wasn't a loss. It was a liberation. I didn't leave in silence. I left with truth as my armor and courage as my legacy. And that, more than any promotion or title, became the most powerful thing I ever claimed. There's something that happens when you stop shrinking to fit inside rooms that were never designed to hold your light. You start creating your own. I took some time off, reconnected with who I was before the meetings, the whispers, the edits to my personality, just to make others comfortable. And in that silence, I remembered the girl who once believed she could make anything happen.
So I did.
6 months later, I launched my own brand strategy firm. It was small at first, but intentional, rooted in integrity, focused on truth. I built a team that didn't just look diverse on a brochure. It was diverse. Loudly, beautifully, unapologetically. And guess who came knocking? Brands that had once ignored my voice in boardrooms. They wanted my vision now. They wanted my power. I didn't say yes to all of them. I didn't need to. Because I had already learned that success isn't about being included in their system. It's about outgrowing it, transcending it, redefining it. To anyone who's ever been targeted for being different, too black, too bold, too quiet, too loud, too real, I see you. This story, it's not just mine. It's yours, too. You don't have to play nice just to survive. You don't have to stay small just to be tolerated. Let them talk. Let them plot. Let them underestimate. Because one day, they'll look up and realize the person they once tried to erase is the name they can't stop saying now. Not out of pity, not out of gossip, but out of respect. Because nothing terrifies the system more than the one it tried to break, who built an empire instead.